Hello, I'm Jan Atkinson. I'm a partner in Osbornes Solicitors and I specialise in wills and estate administration work. I'm going to talk to you today about the importance of making a will. The cost of making a will is relatively inexpensive, and the consequences of not making one can be absolutely catastrophic, especially for their friends and family that they leave behind. If a person dies without having made a will, what happens to their estate is determined by something called the intestacy rules, which were established in 1925. The intestacy rules determine two main things. The first is who will actually deal with the deceased person's estate, and the second is what happens to their assets, i.e. who is going to receive them. The intestacy rules can result in very unexpected consequences, which obviously should be avoided if at all possible. There's an order of priority set out by the intestacy rules as to who is entitled to take out the grant of representation. The order is the surviving spouse first, if there is one. If there's no surviving spouse, then any adult children are next in line to take out the grant of probate. If there are no children, then it's the deceased person's parents, and failing them, any surviving siblings. Contrary to what an awful lot of people seem to think, it's not true that if a person dies with a surviving spouse, that spouse will receive the entire estate on their husband or wife's death. The intestacy rules set out what will happen in those circumstances, and it depends on the value of the estate as to precisely what does happen. If the deceased person leaves, say, a wife and children, the wife will receive the first £250,000 from the estate and a life interest in what's left, and the children receive everything else. If there are no children, then the spouse receives the first £450,000. But if the deceased died leaving parents or brothers and sisters, then they receive a good part of the estate. Obviously that is something which is not really very likely to have been intended by the deceased person, and more importantly by his or her spouse. Although £450,000 or indeed £250,000 might seem a lot of money, certainly in London, because of escalating house prices, it's not that difficult to have an estate which is worth £250,000 or even £450,000 or more. An unexpected consequence of the intestacy rules, and one which I've certainly come across in practice, is where a husband and wife separated a long time ago but never divorced. The husband or wife then takes up with another person and starts living with them and lives with them for a long time, and might even have children with that person, who is usually called a cohabitant. However, if the person dies without having made a will, the surviving spouse, long since estranged, still is entitled to all the rights of a surviving spouse under the intestacy rules, and the cohabitant is actually entitled to nothing. Sorting out someone's estate when they die is actually quite a difficult and onerous task. So making a will is very important in that you can choose suitable people who will be able to do that for you and not find it too difficult or stressful. You can also appoint guardians to look after any infant children that you have, and you can make specific gifts to friends or family of particular items that you would like them to have. I spend a lot of my time sorting out estates, either where no will has been made at all, or where the will which has been made was done at home, or done by a professional person, but someone who wasn't appropriately experienced in the field of will writing. It's very important to go to a suitably qualified solicitor to make your will for you. The best thing to do is to check whether they are a member of an organisation called STEP, which is the Society of Trust and Estate Practitioners. Solicitors who have that accreditation will be experienced in will making. So if you don't have a will, or if you haven't reviewed your existing will recently, get in touch with us at Osbornes and we'll make sure that you have a will which reflects your intentions and really does what you want it to do.